My goal was to put it out there, and it was going to find the person that needed to hear what I was saying, because I think vulnerability is the bravest thing any of us can do. And when we lead with that, we give other people permission to do the same. And cancer was just kind of the vehicle.
Welcome to Your Journey to Joy podcast. I'm your host, Moyra Gorski, and I'm on a mission to help you find joy in the chaos of life. As a retired nurse, multi-passionate entrepreneur, and mom of 4 adult children, I know what it's like to feel the overwhelm of it all and wonder if and when the joy will show up again. And I've learned it's up to us to go find that joy. On this show, you will hear inspiring stories from those who have overcome all kinds of life challenges, tips on how to stay healthy and vibrant during the ups and downs of life, and simple ways on finding joy in your own life. Let's face it, life is messy, yet when we travel together on this journey, support and encourage each other along the way, that joy starts to show up again. I'm so excited to lead you on this journey of you to find the joyful life that you deserve. Well, welcome to another episode of the podcast. I'm your host, Moyra Gorski. We are journeying to joy, and I say it every time, but these are one of my favorite days is when I can bring a guest on so that we can have a conversation and we can share that with you. I met Jamie, as if you've been listening to my podcast, I have gone through breast cancer, and I met Jamie on a retreat that I took myself on this year in September. It was for cancer survivors. I was introduced to a nonprofit organization called Faith Through Fire during my journey by a friend here in Illinois. It's based out of St. Louis, but she had suggested that I get a mentor. And a mentor, right? She introduced me to Faith Through Fire, and kind of the rest is history. I met Jamie on this retreat, and I just clicked with her right away. We went for a walk with the group, and the two of us went together, and you know how that goes. We just meet people that we just resonate with. And then Jamie spoke during a little bit of time that we had together on the retreat. She talked about joy, finding joy in the hard, and some other things around that. And, you know, this is all about joy on this podcast. So I wanted to invite Jamie Greshaber on my podcast today. So thank you, Jamie, for being here. We'll get right into it, but I'm just thrilled that you're here with me today.
Thanks for having me, friend. Yeah, I think you were the farthest traveled for that retreat, which is pretty cool.
I know. I mean, people were kind of surprised. They're like, what? I'm like, what? Why not, right? Well, and you know how it was? It was whenever the retreat opened up for registration, it must have been in the spring sometime or whatever. I had heard about it, and it sounded great. And then by the time I went to sign up, it was all full. So I'm like, okay, well, the way I think, it's like, well, it's not meant to be. And so I kind of forgot about it. And then, I don't know, it was a few weeks before the retreat, somebody reached out and said, hey, we have a cancellation and there's an opening. Would you like to come? And then I looked at the calendar to see when it was, and it was right around my birthday. And I was like, well, wouldn't that be and really, it was 2 years ago on my 60th birthday was the start of me, having my next mammogram and then discovering breast cancer. So I was like, you know what? It's been 2 years, and I think it would be really appropriate for me to go spend my birthday with some ladies that have survived. So that's how that came about. And then I think, the listeners don't necessarily know, but my son, who's in the Air Force, is in Missouri with his wife. And they recently bought a house. And so they were about 2.5 hours away from where we were in St. Louis. So I'm like, well, I'll do a whole trip. So I did the retreat, and then I went to see them for a couple of days.
You know what's crazy? It's funny you say that. I have tried to make it to the retreat for the 2 years prior to this one, and it was always on my son's birthday. And I always thought, I can do this. I can go and do this for me. It'll be okay. And then I never could. I would always feel super guilty. And so I actually wasn't registered for this one. They moved it so that I could come, but then it was full before I was able to register. And then some things happened in the background. A spot opened up for me as well. And then they said, hey, could you also facilitate? And so I love your thought that everything happens for a reason. And I got to meet you and have some really inspiring conversations. And now we're here today. So I just love that idea that God orchestrates far beyond what we can even plan or predict. And if we just lean into it and surrender to it.
Right. I was going to say that if we just open up to that and just, I mean, I am into the, like, does it feel heavy or light? Is there resistance?
Yeah.
Sometimes, things, if we resist, it persists. I said that that weekend when we were talking about some sensitive subjects and I didn't want to like even talk about or go to the discussion. But it's true. When we can be open to meeting new people or experiencing new things, even if it's a long drive. I mean, it was a long drive down there, but it's like what I was really, in my case, and I want to talk about your cancer journey, but in my cancer journey, again, it was super shocking, made some choices, had it removed, and then moved on to really doing the things that I believed were the best for me in my recovery. And I've really tried to put it behind me and really look forward and really do all of those things that I've talked about on this podcast before. And I sat in that retreat, listening to these other women and their stories. And I was like, and it's again, it reminds me on why, kind of why I started this podcast in the beginning. I wanted people to share their stories because I think when we share our stories, we can feel like we're not alone. And so supported. But I listened to these stories. I was like, holy cow, mine wasn't so bad. I mean, I heard some stories that were just like, again, I don't know what you'd say, remarkable or just sad and all of those kind of things. And we were all there together. Yeah, profound, right. Yeah. And we were all there just supporting each other. And I thought, what a great thing, because I was like, I don't know if I want to go to this retreat. And again, sometimes I say, I don't really want to talk about the cancer. I want to move past it. And yet, I took myself there, and it was really good for me to be there, to remind myself, I think, of, okay, I did experience this, and I'm forever changed because of it.
Yeah.
And my story is similar to others, and it's really different than others. But that doesn't negate the fact that cancer entered my life and changed my life. So that's neat. So let's talk about you. Like what's your cancer story?
Whoa. It caught me off guard as well. Quite young when it came into the scene of my life. I was 39 and very much focused on raising my young children. I've always worked. I actually coach fitness classes early morning. I do research during the day and just going through the routine of raising my kids. And I actually went to my GYN for some pain in my abdominal area, wondering if something was going on down there. And crazy enough, on my way out, I got a diagnosis on my way out. I was signing out and she walked past me. She said, "Hey, you're turning 40 soon, aren't you?" And I said, "Yeah, in a couple weeks." And she said, "Why don't you go ahead and get your mammogram scheduled?" Because I had used midwives for my births. And so I wasn't super consistent with wellness exams and keeping up with the GYN. And so I had a pretty symptomatic issue that drove me to go see one. And she ended up saving my life. And so on the way home that day, I literally went to one of those drive-through, like pop-in clinics down in the valley where I live because we were getting ready to go on vacation. And I'm such a regimented, like, you tell me to do it, I'll go do it, get it done, get it checked off. And so I did it and then came home, we packed and we headed to Gulf Shores for the first family vacation since before COVID. So this was in 22. We were kind of coming out of the chaos of COVID and having little kids at home and homeschooling and all the work. And we're like, we're going to go on a vacation, like a real vacation. And we were on, I think, day 4 of that vacation, having an awesome time. And I got a phone call from a nurse, an aggressive nurse. And she said, "You need to come back. We saw something." And I'm like processing, like, saw something what? Like, the mammogram was behind me. It was all kind of an out of body experience. And I just remember saying to her, "Well, I'm on vacation. Can we look at next week?" And she said, "We have an appointment for you tomorrow morning at 9 something. And so I hung up the phone, and I just remember I did not feel in my body. I wasn't processing. And I looked at my husband and I said, we have to drive home. They saw something. And my husband came from a family that was riddled with cancer. I came from a family where there's no cancer. And so one, it was never on my radar. And two, if it was like, we're going to deal with this on his side of things, not mine. And so I'll never forget the drive home. We told the kids there was bad weather. We were just going to shorten the trip. And we drove through the night almost in silence for 12 hours, not talking about the elephant in the room. I was trying to fight the assumption that if they wanted me to come back that quickly, this wasn't just a minor
Just a
thing.
normal little minor thing.
And so you know how it goes over the next week or two. They told me where to be and when. It went from pretty quickly from a more intensive mammogram and ultrasound to a biopsy. I actually almost died during the biopsy. This is a fun little fact. I got lidocaine poisoning.
No.
Where the cancer was all right behind my nipple, where there's a lot of nerves. And so I kept feeling when they were trying to extract the biopsy. So they kept adding lidocaine, and it got into my bloodstream. I blacked out. I apparently punched the doctor.
Oh, God.
I don't wish lidocaine poisoning on anyone. It was a very violent 4 to 5 hours. It has a shelf life, and when it's done, it's done. And then ironically, the next day when I'm home and recovering from that trauma, I logged into my portal to see if they documented what happened. And they did not. They said it went as it was a normal procedure. But then right below it, I saw your results are in. And I was one of those people that found out before the doctor.
It's no fun.
Long story short, I ended up getting the actual diagnosis on my 40th birthday. And I have this great picture. I have a sense of humor, but I have this great picture. They gave me a crown and a piece of chocolate cake and a cancer diagnosis. I'm like, take a picture. This is so ridiculous. So that was the start of my journey. And as you know, it never goes as planned. There are so many plot twists and opportunities to kind of recenter and take the next step. And it was a wild 2 years after that.
Wow. Yeah, you didn't tell me that story.
We were together, so.
Yeah. But that's, again, everybody's, even though our diagnosis can be similar or the same, if it's triple negative or negative positive, all of those things that come along, everybody's journey is different, and everybody's choices, are different and things like that. And I'm, as much as I'm glad that they give us the urgency to, take care of something that is not supposed to be there. Sometimes that urgency just really puts so much fear in us. And that I think sometimes, at least with my experience, sometimes that fear just isn't, it's just not necessary. I think there's some cases where, okay, you need to act quickly because of the location or the type of, and the progression, the stage of the cancer, things like that. But I've listened to so many podcasts and things that just say, you can take a deep breath and you can take your time to get your team together, to get your thoughts together of because cancer doesn't happen overnight. So it's this progression, and we'll never know, right, when it started and how long it took to develop and things like that. So I've seen that so often. I've heard it so often. It's just that fear that they just put right into you. Like, you got to get in and get going with things.
A bit like a cattle call, doesn't it? Like, they just put you in a line, and it's this lockstep, like almost inhumane to a degree, not intentionally, but just the way the system is designed. Like, we've got to get you through. Here are the stops along the way. It's very prescriptive, and something that I often talk to women about. I take calls almost weekly from newly diagnosed, and listening to them, it's just that, Moira, it's that permission to pause. Like, this didn't get here overnight. Gather all the expert intel that you need, and then give yourself time to sit with it, digest it, and attune to what your gut is saying. Because I think when we lose our agency and power in this process, that's when we have regrets. Because sometimes, like you, I felt called to do things differently than what was being prescribed. And it took an insane amount of courage. But that confidence came in giving myself permission to pause and come up for air. And it tuned to what I knew I needed to do for me, because I'm the one that has to live with my choices, right? And we do the best we can with the information we have. But it's not until we say, time out, I've taken in a lot of information, I need to digest it, that sometimes we get clarity on what's right for us and what's not right for us.
Yeah. And, you know, back to the God orchestrates certain things, well, many things. You know, a gal had come into my life that I met through, I don't know, I'm sure I network all over the place and in different groups and things like that. And a gal I had met, and we had done a conversation on Zoom and whatnot. And she, while this was all happening, she was challenging me to why I wasn't sharing more about what was happening. Because I am pretty open on social about my life. And I had shared sitting at the, you know, in the waiting room to go in for, I don't know if it was my second mammogram, or again, I can't even remember some of those details, but I still have the picture of me with my gown on and saying, I don't know what's going to happen, but we're going to get through this together, and I'll share, and I'll, you know, thanks for the support, whatever I said. And then I hadn't shared anything in a couple of weeks because I was just so shell-shocked and whatnot. And she had met me kind of during this time, and she said, why aren't you sharing anymore? You know, are you waiting for things to be perfect, like you get through it all and you've conquered it and then you're going to share? And I was like, well, maybe. I mean, you make them be that. I mean, that sounds really good. And she said, I don't know, I've only known you for a short period of time, but that doesn't really seem like who you are. It seems like you share more so that you can inspire and you can, you know, again, share your story so that, like I said, we don't have to feel alone. And I really took that to heart. And I also thought about, again, for people that have listened to this podcast, they know that our daughter went through 9 years of a terrible eating disorder. And I was pretty open about that, about her journey, but also my journey, most importantly, my journey through that as her mother and a caregiver. And I knew that as a result of sharing, when I would see people in town, they're like, oh, how's Anna? Oh, how's your business? It's like there was always that. And I loved that, right? They loved me. They were concerned and caring friends and things like that. But sometimes it just encompassed a conversation that I maybe didn't want to have. You know, I wanted to because not every day was great with her journey and her recovery. And so I thought about that with cancer. Like, everybody has a story with cancer. They have the mother or themselves or their aunt or their neighbor. Like, I didn't want it to be encompassing, like, oh, how's your cancer going? And and I just didn't want that. And so that's why I didn't share for a while. But she said, you know what? You should share, but you can control the narrative. And that was such a powerful phrase that she told me. And that's what I did. I mean, I sat and I journaled and I cried. I remember that morning sitting in my other house that we lived in then and just getting myself together and saying, okay, I'm ready to share. And I shared. And so, but I also said, if you're going to come to me with, however I said it, pity and all of this stuff, like negativity, I don't want it. Like, I'm here to let's figure this out. I'm as shocked as you are. And I'm going to figure it out, and I'm going to share the journey. And if you want to come along with me, and if you want to share all your woes and then you can go someplace else, basically, is what I said. But it was so empowering for me, because then when I would see somebody walking the dog in the park, they're like, how you doing? It was this positive conversation. And I could see it in their eyes. I mean, they knew what was going on. I knew what was going on. But it was this positive instead of that dread and the like, oh, yeah. Because again, we need to share our stories. And I remember the day that my husband drove me downtown to have my lumpectomy. And I had shared, I mean, people knew I was going and the date and all of that. But I felt, and even my husband said, I don't feel any heaviness with this. I mean, I felt at peace. And that was, I believe, because I had shared and that people were praying for me. I was praying for me. There was so much love, surrounding that and surrounding me. And it's because I shared. And again, I've been open with sharing. This is, like you said, this is my story, and this is the choices that I'm making. You don't have to agree with it or not, but this is what I'm doing it.
So I know exactly where I was sitting when I decided to share as well. I love that connection. I was actually sitting on the bleachers at sunset at a football game on my birthday. And I decided it was almost like I didn't even have a choice. In my gut, I just felt like I was being called to share. And my goal, like yours, was not, I didn't actually ever read the comments. My goal was to put it out there, and it was going to find the person that needed to hear what I was saying, because I think vulnerability is the bravest thing any of us can do. And when we lead with that, we give other people permission to do the same. And cancer was just kind of the vehicle. And so when I wrote, I decided, I actually had a blog. You'll love it. It was called My Journey with Breast Cancer, and the J, O, and Y were in all caps in journey. And I wrote, I was committed to writing on the good days, on the great days, on the hard days, and then finding the joy in all of it. And so it was less about the cancer. Now, my choices and the alternative things that I did were through there, but it was more about finding joy in the hard, because everyone has hard. Cancer might not be your story, but hard is. None of us get a pass in this life without it. And so I'm interested in that ability to thrive in the even if things aren't going the way, like, where's the joy? Where's the gratitude? Where can I find the light? How can I be a light bearer to others? And ironically, I stopped writing when I was finished having things to say, but just last week, I got a call from someone whose dad is newly diagnosed, and she wanted prayer and support with alternative treatments because of what I wrote about 2 years ago. And I just had a friend who lost a child, and we came back together around some of the things I wrote about. And so it has created a community and connection that, had I not shared my story, it might not be there. You and I might not have ever met. And so that is the encouragement, is when you lead with your heart and you're vulnerable, it creates a conversation or permission for others to not feel alone. I believe that to my core.
Right.
So
yeah, absolutely. And, knowing that in that sharing and that vulnerability, it's okay for us to set boundaries around that. To say, again, to control the narrative, to set a boundary, to say, okay, and, perhaps you might lose some friends, or, relationships will change and things like that. But that's okay if it's, again, what you feel is most important.
Well, and let's talk about that for a second, because one of the things that caught me off guard is I decided to not reconstruct. So having a double mastectomy at 40 years old feels pretty dramatic. I had just come out of nursing my children. I mean, it felt like a loss on so many profound levels that I probably still haven't processed. And not from a vanity, but there's all this messaging about what women are and aren't. And I have a daughter that's been watching me through this journey. I was blown away by the pressure to reconstruct by my entire medical team, being told that I would have regrets, I wouldn't feel like a woman, what if my husband's not attracted to me? And so there was all these layers. And then I had friends who were saying, don't reconstruct, you don't want to put implants in you. And I'm looking at women with breasts, and I'm like, you guys aren't in my situation. Like, this feels impossible no matter which way I go. And I don't wish this decision on any woman. And so to be getting bombarded, like you said, setting those boundaries, but bombarded by input that I didn't ask for, and to quiet it enough to hear my own voice in it. And so I agree with you that, like, setting the boundaries, take in the input, set the boundary, and then move forward in a way that feels right to you unapologetically, and let the chips fall where they may, right? Like, I had to learn that some of the stuff being put on me wasn't even about me. It was a projection of other people's issues or things. And so I always, Moira, for me, it was, there's a white fence around my heart, and there are things that the gate needs to open and I need to absorb to grow from. But there are also things that just needs to stay outside that fence, because it's not my lesson to learn. And so I try and visualize that when I have conflicting inner dialogue with external input. What is for me in this situation? Do I need this to grow? Is it even about me? And so I love that you brought that up.
Yeah, well, like, let's just stay there for a minute, because that's awesome. I mean, as my friend would say, that's like a golden nugget, because, many people hearing this may feel the same way that I do. I mean, I grew up in a pretty codependent a family where we're concerned about what everybody else thinks. And we act accordingly. And like you said, oftentimes when people are reacting or saying something about us, it's not about us. It's about their reaction to it, how that's making them feel, and they're projecting it on us. But it's very hard sometimes for us to decipher that's what that's all about, and to just keep it like, okay, that must be your opinion about it, and to not have it impact us. That's really, and just that white fence and the gate that's off. That is great. And so just so good. There was so much there. Oh, and I wrote that down on my notes as I was coming in to speak with you. That was something that I hadn't experienced before. I mean, I had a lumpectomy. My breasts are intact, except for that little moon-shaped scar that's still there. And but I had never knew about the flat. And when people, women choose to not reconstruct, that they're in this, I don't know if it's a society or whatever, but a flat, you're choosing to be flat. And again, there were several gals in the retreat that were in that camp, right? Yeah. And there was discussion around that. And again, discussion around all of that, the intimacy, how do you feel as a woman? How is my husband going to feel about me? And again, I just sat and I listened, and it was really profound. The things that the women said and the conversations that were had. It was
they're all losses, right? Like, you experienced loss. You experienced so many things that, like you said, it's so true that, like, there's the person you were before cancer and the person you are now. I saw it as an opportunity to shed and grow and redefine and reclaim. I spent a lot of my childhood orbiting around big personalities, right? Make sure everyone's comfortable, stay small, don't disrupt, don't create, just make sure everything's in this. Cancer really was a catalyst for me to say, like, no is a complete sentence. Who am I in all of this? Who do I want to become? And own that. And it is not that I miss having breasts. Actually, I was just talking to my husband about it the other day, but I don't think that people see me and say, oh, she doesn't have breasts, right? Like, because there's a energy and a confidence that I've learned to have in my body as it is. I'm a warrior. I have overcome. I am reclaiming. And I still, to this day, Moira, I have these wild dreams and it's when I'm stressed, but I don't know if listeners that maybe are on the flat side can relate, or even people who've had a mastectomy or lumpectomy, there's parts of you that are amputated. And, like, I had to give it that language because it's that powerful. Like, we had body parts amputated. Like, this isn't just like a procedure it is a loss of self. And I have this recurring dream when I'm stressed, and I'm actually looking in dumpsters for my breasts. Like, where did they go? They were discarded. That's powerful, right? Like, I have to sit with that and say, what do I need right now in this moment? What is my body communicating? And so, like you, I don't want to sit in what happened, but there are times where I'm invited to reflect and consider what I still need to learn from it. And so I do. And I'm like, okay, pause, time out. Like, what do I need right now? Because it was a loss, and you experienced a loss, and it redefined you in a way you didn't ask to be redefined. Right. And there's beauty in that, but there's also hard.
Yeah, absolutely. And, again, you said inviting to pause and to reflect on that. I will, and I want people to hear this, that sometimes you can do that in your home, around your family, and sometimes you need to get away. And that same gal, right, and that same gal that said you need to share, she also said, could you go away? I'm like, what do you mean go away?
Could you did.
And I did. And so I went away for, again, the whole God, the orchestra of the universe all came in line because I reached out to a friend in Michigan who I knew from here, had moved there, but then she had a second home that she did these spiritual retreats at, and, some coaching there. And it was this really cool farmhouse. And I knew that they had recently redone the upstairs and, and redone the bedrooms. Because when I visited there to go to work, I was like, upstairs was a little scary because it was an old farmhouse, but I knew they redid it. I reached out to her. I said, hey, do you ever let anybody come and stay at that house, stay upstairs? Like you kind of talked about before, that was kind of your plan. And she goes, you know how it was a couple days ago? I was just thinking about it. And I said, could I be the first person? And so that's what I did. I went up to Michigan for 2 days. She met me there, let me in. I brought all my food, even though it was a beautiful town in Southwest Michigan, I could have gone out. But I was like, I'm bringing everything so that I can just be with myself for 2 days. And so we spent a couple hours together talking, and she left. And the only person that I saw was a massage therapist who came in later in the day to give me a massage, which I had asked for. And then she came back the next day at 3:00. But there I was with myself. And I was thinking, okay, I have 4 children, been married for however long. I mean, I've never, when have I ever been by myself? Like, never.
Who am I?
And I wasn't really sure what I was going to do, But it was the best thing. I mean, I opened up my journal. I pulled, she had candles and books and oracle cards and all kinds of spiritual things and different things that I could. And I just lit some candles. I sat on the floor. I opened the books. I opened my journal, and I just said, okay, let's go. And it was profound. What I learned about what this all was meaning for me. And like you said, I was now a different person that had been impacted by cancer. And so many things that I learned during that time is that I wanted to figure out where the cancer was in my life, not just in my body, but where was my cancer in my life. And I wanted to get rid of that. I knew that, it was the start of me really learning that I really needed to let go of that control and holding on. And I thought that I had everything together. And then God had a little bit different story for me. And I needed to let go of trying to control everything, It
really is where the freedom is, isn't it?
Yeah. And then I realized that, I needed to get rid of those things that, let go, but get rid of those things that weren't serving me,
And you might not have been able to hear him had you not taken that time. And I think I wrote down, go somewhere by myself. And that feels like the most brave and terrifying thing that I could do right now. I mean, honestly, mad respect to you because you're with your thoughts. There's nowhere else to go. Right. And it's,
woo. One of my daughter's therapists said to her one time, said, everywhere you go, there you are.
There you are.
And it was, again, I was grateful for my husband and my daughter. Okay, see you, Mom. See you, Moira. I left for a couple of days, and I came back just changed and thinking I should do this every year. I haven't done it since then, but I think we all should do it. Be it that I have gone on a silent retreat, which was a 2-hour with a girlfriend of mine that I know that has beautiful property here. And we went and started out, and then we're by ourselves for 2 hours in the woods. And I sat against a tree and journaled and thought and stuff like that. So it's just I believe it's so important because we are overstimulated in this world, and there's just so much that's coming at us that again, like you said, where are you in all of that? Where am I in all of that? And sometimes unless you intentionally take yourself away from it and turn it all off, you just can't hear God. You can't hear spirit. You can't hear any of that. You can't hear, again, what your heart is saying. And it was some of the first time that I think I really, now that I said that out loud, that I really could feel my heart. I needed to get out of my head of because that's the masculine and the just control. And I get it, I get stuff done. But I had to really get into my heart of what's my heart saying and really what I want to do. And I realized, and this always gets me, but I just knew I wanted to live because cancer comes into people's lives and oftentimes they don't live. And I was like, you know what? I want to live. And so I'm going to do these things that I believe are the best things so that I can live.
Yeah.
Not just be on this earth, but live. And so we're going to move into joy. But that's the thing, I remember coming home from that, and that's what I'm going to do. Make my choices so that I can live. And in the midst of that, I reflected back to my daughter's struggle too. And as I was reclaiming myself in that and finding a way to put on my own oxygen mask and find the joy, I was waiting for it all to come back. I was waiting for everything to be better. and just as well as I do, nobody's coming. Nobody's coming up to get us out of bed and to get us out of the house, and nobody's coming. And that joy isn't, the joy is waiting outside the door, but nobody's coming. And and I realized it was up to me. I needed to get myself up and out and go try to talk to somebody or go to some new thing or, go find things that would make me happy or bring me joy instead of just waiting around, because I was waiting around.
No.
And I think I think that message will resonate with a lot of people that, oh yeah, life has dealt me this hand, and like, when's it going to get better? When's this going to go away?
Brought to you by Gorski Wellness and the possibility of a better you. Are you feeling sluggish? Ready for a change? Need more energy? Up for a bigger challenge? I'm Moyra Gorski, retired nurse and wellness advocate. For over 22 years, I've been helping people live healthier lives while making small changes each and every day. Those small changes lead my clients to living a healthier lifestyle with markedly better health. As a brand ambassador for the Shaklee Corporation, the most clinically proven wellness company in the world, I guide my clients to make healthier choices each day with their food, supplements, skincare, workouts, and mindset. They say getting started is half the battle. Let's make healthy happen together. If you're ready for simple, natural, sustainable solutions to feeling and looking your best, let's connect. You'll find a link in the show notes or reach out to me at moyragorski.com. Here's to a better you.
It's taking an active stance in your own life, that it's not you're a passenger or a character, but you are the main event. And what does it look like to move? I was going to say, in listening to you, that time away, that clarity on the no's makes your yeses so much easier. And I think for women in particular, that's important to hear, that no is a complete sentence. And when I know my no's, my yeses are that much bolder and brighter, and I can see them and I can take them, because we spend so much of our lives nurturing to those that we love. We give and give and give, but don't deposit back into our own bank account. And so again, hats off to you for that. It's funny you're talking about peace and movement, and I'm actually in the middle of a Bible study on the armor of God, and this week is about the shoes of peace, and that it is through grateful prayer that we find peace. And so when we can be grateful and joyful for the things that are, that is where our peace exists, and that we are actually called to put on our go shoes, our movement, that we aren't passive in this life, but that we are active and moving forward. And so that really resonated with me, what you were saying.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I think about that with my dance, putting on my shoes and let's go.
Go shoes.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Well, and there's nothing like a good pair of shoes, right? But dance shoes in particular, for those that don't, again, I do ballroom dance as a hobby, and I went to a group class last week, and I pulled out my sparkly ones, that I had for a while, and I hadn't worn in a bit, and I wore them. I was like, oh, these are so uncomfortable. I ended up throwing them out when I got home, because I have found a really great pair of shoes that I've spent more money on, but they fit me well, and I love them, even though these sparkly ones are really cool and fun. I was like, man, these are uncomfortable. So I threw them out onto the other ones. But so again, people will hear things like, okay, go find things that bring you joy and do all these things. And again, I think there's people that are sitting here going, yeah, that sounds really good, but I don't really even know how to do it.
Yeah. Let's talk about
that.
So happiness versus joy. Joy to me is, it doesn't matter the external circumstances happening to you. It's an internal feeling. Happiness is often our reaction to good things, those good feelings that we have. But joy is regardless, and it's an internal thing. I actually, the day I got diagnosed, I went and got a tattoo, because that's just my vibe. But it was a flower that in my Bible is underneath the scripture, the joy of the Lord is my strength. And so it was always on my arm to see through all my treatments and all that. And I thank God all the time. That is a gift that I've been given. And I take it very seriously that I need to exemplify that to be light in the darkness. And I don't take for granted that it is something that doesn't come as quickly or easily to others. But yeah, what's your perspective on joy and how to find it?
Yeah, I mean, I like that. I mean, you talked about, again, happiness of being, because we're reacting to what's going on. But I think it's very personal, and it's finding things that, again, light you up, or that aren't, and it doesn't have to be, because people can, big, joyful. And I thought of the hymn, joyful, we adore thee. Like, it's, just big, but joy really can be in those small things. And I think that's what happened with me. Is that just going out for a walk or looking out. I keep looking out the window. I mean, it's a beautiful day today. The gal next to us has this tree that is this vibrant orange red. And as much as it started out a little like dropping its leaf like the last week, it's brilliant. And it's just those small things and just be like, wow, it's really sunny today. And so that's great. But again, sometimes it's the big things, but I think a lot of times
I'm with you.
It's the small, and to also not be, we'll stay there, but it's also not to say that, and I try to tell people this because they see me, they're like, wow, all this stuff that you're doing. I go, yes, and you can do it too. I'm here to inspire, but I'm also here to tell you that there are days that I just want to go in the basement and I'll binge through 5 episodes of Sullivan's Crossing. I mean, come on, because that's where you are. I need that, because I need that time. I've learned that enough about myself that it's like, okay, it's time to turn on the TV. It's enough of that. But sometimes I just need that, and sometimes I need it because the days have been like, I can't find the joy anymore today. Okay, so I'm done, and I'm gonna go and reset a little bit. I'm gonna be with myself, but fill me with some fun, whatever. I love a great series. I love a great movie. I love a great novel. So I'm open to say it's not always good, and it doesn't. For sure. It's for you. It's not always going to be good. For me, it's not always going to be good. And we all have choice, so we can choose. Like you say, be grateful. I start my days. Most days I say that because I didn't do it this morning yet. But, to sit with a journal and just sit with tea and sit with myself and God and prayers. And I write the 10 gratitudes of the day. And it doesn't have to be big. A lot of times it's like Ruby, the dog, who's sitting next to me. Yep. Or it's really nice out. Or I love sitting on the porch. Or I'm thankful for my family. And I list all my kids and my husband. And I miss my dad and that kind of stuff. But it's not big. Those little things.
You talked about nature, but it's like when we have a physiological response to something that catches us. That's where joy is. When my heart skips a beat at a sunset and I realize I am alive, I am living, I am with those I love. Actually, a funny example to me happened with you at the retreat when we were on that hike, and I was getting to know you, and we ended up way far away from the whole group because we were just deep in thought. We were walking a little faster than everyone. And you remember I stepped over that hornet's nest and I got stung in my butt and it hurt so bad. And I remember even telling you, and you didn't have quite the empathetic flash, which made me laugh. But we kept going. And then I needed to stop and have someone put something on it because it had its own pulse. And I'll never forget, I pulled my pants down and you're helping put stuff on my butt. And I'm like, I had this out of body moment where I'm like, I am in nature with a bunch of women I don't know with my pants down. I am grateful for this moment and the humor of it and that just the opportunity for this absurd experience. And that was like a joy filled moment for me. And that's an example of even if it hurt like heck to get stung by that, but I'm surrounded by this random group of women in these beautiful woods. And so that was a moment for me that I was like, put a little frame around this and lock it in my memory. It's absurd and hilarious. And honestly, that's where I find my joy in some of the most absurd moments in life. But yeah, it is not fleeting. It is not determined by external circumstances. It's an internal thing that we have to seek. And like you said, we get to choose, our thoughts have power, right? So if I constantly say life is bad, life is bad, life is bad, my brain's going to look for bad.
Right.
But if I say, man, stuff's so hard right now, but I love the noise my chickens make when they talk to each other, or my dog is matching his breath pattern on my lap and wants to be near me, or I have a hot cup of chocolate on a rainy day, like then my brain starts looking for the good and it rewires how I see the world. And so that's the gift, right? That we get to choose how we interact with the good and the bad. And we make choices over and over. And the degree to which we spend looking for the good, that is how we rewire our brain. Because it's something called confirmation bias. Like our brain wants to prove what we already believe. And so it's so powerful, our thoughts and how we see the world. And so pay attention to that.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, we can get deep into the psychology of things. And sometimes it's just good to have a reminder conversation. Again, I go back to dance and my instructor who I stay with him because he's a great instructor, but he totally gets me. And I've learned so much from him. And one of the things that he'll say that I now say, it's like, it doesn't matter. And it's not that that you're totally disregarding, like, oh, it doesn't matter. But there's so many things. I'm saying this for myself, and maybe other people can relate to that. Like, I get just stuck in this, like, oh, but what about this? And like with the dance and the this and that. And he goes, it doesn't matter. And sometimes it doesn't. I'm like, again, it's so like, I'm so like, are you trying to fix things or learn it? He goes, it doesn't matter. And so it's kind of that. And I don't know if I said that in my head, like when it does matter that you got stung, but it also was like, okay, we're going to get through this. We don't have to like take it.
It was hilarious to me, the whole
thing.
Absolutely. You're totally right. You're totally right. And I think some of that comes through shame and criticism to ourselves. So when I think about you with dance and maybe you didn't perfect something or you think you look a certain way that others don't see, it's like, that's that fence, right? Like the fence doesn't need to open. It doesn't matter. Like we're going to keep it moving. We're going to see the forest through the trees. Like this is a bump on a very long journey. And so, yeah, absolutely.
Well, and people again, they love to watch me dance and all of that. And again, they see like, oh, that's really great. And those are the things that I, work to share too, that there is so much, again, everywhere I go, there I am in front of the mirror, like dancing. And it's the whole, I don't know, I've talked about, it's body image things, but it's just that whole, like, I don't know. Is this what I'm supposed to be doing? Am I really like, and, I was raised in a very faith-filled, conservative family. And not that we were told that we can't dance, but it's just all of this. Again, we don't have to go into it because we're getting to the end of our time here, but like it's that whole, but the point is that there's all those thoughts that keep coming up. And it's like, who are you to dance? And who are you to, and it's become, because it does bring me joy. And even the going to this competition that I went to last week or whenever it was, and so many people have said, you have such great legs, you should dance rhythm. And I'm like, my legs aren't gonna, the look of my legs is not gonna help me perfect rhythm, right? I always joke about that. But I put my dress on and my shoes on and I looked at myself in the mirror. I was like, wow, I really have nice legs. And it was the first time. Yeah, it was the first time. And I went downstairs and I said, Norbert, how you always talk about my legs? I go, they really do look awesome today, don't they? And maybe they'll help me win today. But it took me 62 years to really look at myself and go, wow, you do look awesome today. And he's somebody that continues to remind me of that, to say, that stuff doesn't matter. And what matters is we're here today, we're dancing. And I'll wrap it up with that because I can go on and on about dance. But again, it's been such a gift that I didn't know that I needed. But I remember getting that diagnosis and we were prepping for a competition, so every lesson was about perfecting the things because we were going up to a comp. And I remember going in that day that I'd gotten the results, or I'd gotten the results the day before or whatever. I went into the lesson, I just sat down. I put my shoes on and I sat down instead of like, usually I'm up ready to go whenever he's ready, done with his last lesson. And he sat down, he's like, what's up? And I told him, and he sat with me for a moment and he goes, you know what? when I was having really hard time with my dad when I was 13 and 14, he says, you know what helped me? Dance. He goes, so let's go dance. I'll never forget that.
Love this
because
guy.
it was like, I know. And so it's great to be able to dance. But again, it's great to be able to I've learned so much from him, and I have felt supported by him. And I've learned, again, so much about myself through that. And he allows that. He holds space for me. So, that's why I stay there, because I know that this is a learning journey for me. It is my therapy. It's my movement therapy. It's my life therapy, along with everything else that I do. But I can find, yeah. So again, when I talk with people about joy, like, find something that lights you up. And you may not know it when you first start it or whatever. And again, maybe it is that subtleness. Maybe it's the small things. Maybe you need to quiet yourself down, and slow down so that you can see those things. But yeah. I recently did. Oh, go ahead. Yeah. I recently, and this came from during a meditation that I was doing. I gotta watch the clock. We could talk forever, right? But I'll finish it up with this, because I want to share this with you and with the audience. I had this like vision, if you will, about creating a joy box. And I don't know if I told you about this when we were walking, but it was kind of like a big thing, like a box that had physical reminders of joy, and maybe slippers and a water bottle and a cozy, wrap, or different things like that. And I started to work on it, and then I realized, like, that's like a new product development. Like, that's a lot. I can't do that. So I put it away. And so, but my friend who invited me up to Michigan, or I invited myself up to her house, last year, it doesn't matter. Sometime this year, I said to her, yeah, I really want it. And she goes, don't do a whole box. She goes, just do a workshop. Just get people together and have them make their own box. And then they can put their physical reminders of joy in there, because it's those small things. So I conducted my first Joy Box workshop at the at the Living Well Cancer Center, which is right here. It's part of the Northwestern system. If you've experienced cancer, or if you're a caregiver or whatever, you can go to, everything's free there. So there's therapy, there's wig workshops, there's Tai Chi, there's lots of art classes. And so I did my first Joy Box workshop. I went to a cigar shop, and I asked if I could have some old, some empty cigar boxes. And I picked those up. And I got to tell you, there were 2 women that came, and then I made my box too. And watching them become creative and like create their box with, we had stickers, we had little sayings and Bible verses, all kinds of things. And it was so awesome to watch. But it was also like, this is a box that you're going to take home. And like, when you find that feather when you're walking, or you find that special rock that's shaped into a heart or something, or you have that special card, or you have, my dad's thing from his funeral, or a picture of this or whatever, you can put it in your little joy box. Because when you find the days that you're having a hard time finding the joy, maybe you go and you open your joy box, right? And you find those physical reminders of joy. And then at the end of the day, really, the joy comes from inside. So that's where we find the joy. But I was happy to say I did the Joy Box workshop.
I'm happy to hear that.
Yeah. And now I have 2 other ones as a result of me sharing about that. I have 2 other ones planned in 2 other places that want to do Joy Box workshops. So
I love that. I love that.
Yeah.
Sure, it's so far away.
Yeah. Well, maybe I can come down there and do one.
We could do a workshop together.
Yeah. So I want to wrap up today and just be, again, so grateful that you joined me today and shared all your wisdom and your love here. And how would you like to close, things up? Anything that we didn't cover, or just wrapping it up that you'd like the listeners to hear?
Well, I walked away with homework. So thank you for that. I jotted down, go somewhere by myself, look at myself and authentically compliment myself. That one, like, I have to roll my shoulders back, but I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. And it doesn't matter. And I'm going to use that with my kiddos. So thank you for those. As far as, just the reminder, I think reminders from what we talked about, like we are wise, intuitive beings, and we can't lose our agency or voice in the hard. And so that permission to pause and come up for air. I actually have a necklace with a pause button, and it's such a good reminder to me that this thing that I'm facing didn't happen overnight, nor do I need to fix it overnight. And what can I learn in this moment, and what do I need to move forward? Those are powerful questions that if we take time to sit with ourselves, we'll find the right path, the right next step. And so just giving people permission to slow it down in a tune and be curious and open, and you'll land on your feet stronger than you were before.
Yeah. Yeah. That's awesome. It's beautiful. Thank you for all of that. Again, there's just, I wrote down, what did you say? When you get clarity on the nose, your yeses
That much easier.
are that much easier. I mean, that's what I wrote down too. And joy is regardless, or something like that. You said something about use that word
regardless of external, right? Yeah. So it is inside of all of us, and it doesn't matter, because I tell you what, Moira, like on my darkest days, I think the depth of grief, so is the depth of joy, if we're willing and open. And on my hardest days, I still found laughter. I still found those things that made my heart skip a beat and say, thank you that I'm alive. We just have to look for it, and we have to set our eyes and attention toward those things.
Yeah. Yep. And I will finish by saying, again, I'm so grateful for you. I want somebody that I interviewed who was a end-of-life doula, who is an end-of-life doula, said, we grieve so much because we've loved so much. So again, the same thing. There's depth of grief, but there can be depth of, of joy and grief, or joy and love, and all of those things. Again, if we're willing and if we're open. Yeah. Thank you for everything. So glad that you were here today. And if people want to connect with you, again, you do some wonderful things with research and education, but I will share some things in the show notes if people want to get in touch with you, because you you do speak. And do you have a way that people can get in touch with you? Because you do speak on limiting beliefs and finding joy and the psychology of joy and things like that.
Yeah. I can share my contact info with you, and I would
put that in the
love
notes.
that. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Jamie, for being here today. I really appreciate it. And it was great. And thank you, listeners. Come back for more next time. And please share these with those that need to hear this as well. Take care.
Hey there, ready to live a more joyful life? Considering connecting with someone who can help you? If so, I'd like to be that person. I offer a free consultation where we determine where the chaos is in your life and how you can learn to bring more joy each and every day. Visit my website, moyragorski.com, or simply email me, moira@moyragorski.com, with more joy in the subject line. I look forward to connecting, and I'm here to say there will always be some chaos, which requires a little juggling, but you can find joy and live your life intentionally filled with that joy. Let me help you on your journey to joy. And that's joy, the journey of you.